Hi everybody, this is Plugspinner, and today we're going to be picking and gutting this Yardeni 6-pin Dimple lock. We're actually going to be picking it clockwise and counterclockwise just because this particular lock responds a little differently depending on how you open it, and I thought some of you might find that interesting. We will jump right into it. Because of this warding here, these two little pieces right there, you do have to pick the pins from the right side. If you try to pick from the left, at least with this chunky dimple pick I have, it gets caught up and just doesn't work very well. But as you'll see, picking clockwise while also picking from the right side will run into an issue at some point with the spools in this lock where they don't really want to be pushed up past that shear line. They more so jam up. So you do have to float pick this when picking clockwise. Alternatively, if you pick it counterclockwise while picking from the right side like this, those spools way more easily slip up past the shear line and you don't have to float pick it. So I'm going to demonstrate both of those, and then like I said, we'll gut it, and we will also do a reassembly as well, just because I don't typically show those on my videos, and I noticed a lot of other people don't as well. So I thought maybe it would be useful to some of you new pickers that are curious about the reassembly process as well. So enough yapping, we're going to get to picking, and first we'll pick it clockwise and then counterclockwise, and then we'll get to the gutting. Okay, so now we're going to pick our lock clockwise to start. We're going to apply our tension, and we're picking from the right side of these pins, as I said. We're going to go all the way to the back, start at pin 6, and work our way forward. We're just feeling for binders right now. 6 is springy, so we'll leave him. Little click out of 5. Little click out of 4. 3's binding. Little click out of 3, 2, and 1 are both loose. We're going to go to the back of the lock again. Pin 6 is binding. Okay, I think we got 6 set. 5 feels set. 4 is binding. Got to click out of 4, and now we're in our false set. So what that usually means is that you're caught on spool pins, 1 or more. In this case, it's going to be 2 spool pins in chambers 1 and 2. I just know that from experience picking this lock. But the way you would normally locate those is by pushing up on each pin gently so as to not overset them. And then when you hit a spool pin, it will provide counter rotation to the plug. So sometimes you can actually see it in the plug. It'll start rotating the opposite way that you're tensioning it, in this case counterclockwise. More reliably, you'll see it in your thumb because the tension wrench will push the opposite way you're tensioning, and your thumb will kind of bounce like this. So as you'll see, pin 1, as I push up on it, you'll see my thumb is already moving on the left side. That's the counter rotation you're looking for. Normally, you would just keep applying light to moderate tension and just push up until that spool clears the shear line. With this particular lock and the way we're picking it, tensioning clockwise and also picking from the right side, that spool tends to just get entirely jammed, and you really can't get it past that shear line unless you want to bend your picks. And even then, you still might not be able to get it up. So what you have to do is float pick it, which means you have to momentarily reverse your tension counterclockwise just enough to get that spool above the shear line. I'm going to attempt to do that. It's pretty risky. You could lose all of your progress. The key, in my opinion, is to maintain a maintain a steady amount of upward pressure with your pick. Don't bounce it up and down like that. Just apply a little upward force and leave it. And then the rest of the work is going to be done by your tensioner. So let's try it, and we'll see if we can slip that spool up without dropping all of our other pins. So I'm applying very gentle upward pressure with my pick, and I'm going to reverse my tension very slowly. And there we go. We got that first spool up, no problem. And now we have one more spool, which is in chamber 2. As you can see in my thumb again, it's bouncing a little bit. Same idea, steady upward force with your pick and reverse your tension just enough so that that spool can clear the shear line. And we got it, and now we're open. So as you can see, float picking is a little bit technical, but very manageable once you have a good strategy. I have found with most locks, the key is to just really control, well, you have to control both your tension and your pick, but in my opinion, the pick is where the most trouble comes in. A lot of people have the tendency, myself included, to kind of bounce it up and down to free that spool. But from most locks I've picked that require float picking, it works better if you just pick an amount of force and you stick to it. Just leave it and then use your tensioner to control the rest of it. Hopefully that makes sense. But now that we have that open, we're gonna lock it back up and we are going to pick it counterclockwise. And by doing that, you can actually avoid having to float pick altogether, which can be really useful if you're, say, a locksmith or something like that, and you just need to get into whatever you're getting into as quick as possible. So if you notice you're hitting spools and they're just not clearing, you're trying to float pick and it's just giving you a headache, it's not working, all your pins are dropping, you always have the option of picking counterclockwise, given that you have a plug spinner, which is a tool that you can use once it's picked the wrong direction to flip the plug into the correct position, so clockwise, without having to repick everything, and that will allow you to get into the door, the deadbolt, or whatever you're trying to get into. Okay, so same idea, we're gonna tension counterclockwise. We're gonna start at pin 6 and work our way forward. All right, pin 6 is binding a little bit. Got to click out of 6. 5 is binding. Got to click out of 5. 4 is springy. Little click out of 3, I think. Yep. 2 and 1. We're going to go to the back again. Pin 6 is still good, it feels like. Pin 5 feels good. 4, we got 4, and now we're in a false set again. And now this time, we don't have to do anything except pick those spools normally. So we're going to maintain our counterclockwise tension. You can't see it, my thumb's right here. And we are just going to push up. We're going to allow the counter rotation. Just keep your tension steady and everything else should stay where it's at, hopefully. And we're just going to push it through that counter rotation until it pops back up and we drop back into our false set. So pin 1, counter rotation, and we're clear. Pin 2 is also a spool, counter rotation, and we're clear. There you go. As you can see, picking counterclockwise was much, much easier for this lock. It's possible both ways, but like I said, in certain situations, you just want to get in and out as quick as you can, and in this case, counterclockwise was the way to go. If you were trying to open a door or a deadbolt, typically this would not open the lock or do anything, really. So you would need to now insert your plug spinner, wind it up, and it will shoot that plug the other way, clockwise, and then open the door or lock or whatever you're trying to get into. Okay, now that we have this done, we're gonna go ahead and get to gutting. Just gonna lock this back up. I actually just realized I never showed you the key. Here is the key for the lock. This worked perfectly. We'll use this for the gutting here, so we'll leave that there. I'm going to place this lock here, remove our vise, and then I'll just reposition the camera so you can get a better look at everything. Okay, let's move this right here. Alright, I think everything should be in frame now. And this lock is actually pretty interesting, as you'll see when we get into it. In terms of pins, it's... Oops, got a lot of cat hair on this screwdriver here. So yeah, in terms of pinning, it's not all that impressive. It's just all standards and 2 spools in those front 2 chambers. But there are some other interesting features to this lock, which I'll show you. So behind this tailpiece here, there's actually a brass disc in the plug, which will pop right out if you tap it. But while you're gutting, it's actually, well, if you're gutting with the key rather, it's actually important to keep that in because that controls how far the key goes into this lock. So if that's removed and you insert this key, the key goes in too far and it actually won't unlock. So you have to, I mean, you can manually kind of like wiggle it to fix it. Ooh, I almost messed up there and pulled the plug out. But in general, yeah, keeping this in is going to be your best bet to gutting this successfully. So we're just going to turn it very slightly. I think now that it's turned, you can take out that that disc because the pins are locking the key in place now, so it can no longer move back and forth. But I think I'm going to shim this just in case, and I'll show you why once we get in here. All right, that shim does not want to play nice. All right, forget the shim. We're gonna risk it and just go for it. I think we should be good. I was doing that for a reason, which I'll show you in a minute, but for now, we'll just pray that it works out. All right, got everything out. We almost lost those pins, but not quite. The reason that happened is because once the plug was free and that brass plate wasn't there anymore, the key went forward and we almost launched those pins out. So this little brass disc is a little tricky, and if you're not used to gutting these, this can easily throw you off. Something to keep in mind. The reason I wanted to shim originally is because I had seen this little cut here before. In terms of picking, it's not really a trap because it's between the 2 chambers here. So a driver pin would really never have the opportunity to fall in there. But while gutting, if you go too far, you could absolutely get a driver pin stuck in there. So just something to be aware of if you do get your hands on one of these locks and you're trying to gut it. Additionally, we have some anti-drill bars here, which is pretty cool. It's kind of interesting that they chose to put that, but such limited security pins, but whatever. Maybe they had their reasons. But anyway, let's get to gutting here. All these key pins are going to be standards. Nothing too exciting about them. Okay, oh, one of our anti-drill bars fell out. We are just going to put him back. It's nothing special. It's just a little steel bar thing. All right, that's in there. We will set this here. And now we're going to go for the driver pins. Chamber 1 is one of our spools. Chamber 2 is also a spool. And then the rest are just going to be standard pins. And I'm going to take out the springs too, because like I said, I'm going to do a reassembly, so I want you to see it totally apart before we put it back together. All right, that's that. Let's get these springs out. Okay, we move that here for now. Here are our pins. Again, nothing too tricky, just those spools. you know, and then we have those anti-drill bars there. I don't actually know what the purpose of this little divot is. If anyone knows what that's for, I'd be glad to know. But other than that, just a standard dimple lock, nothing exciting. Nothing that interesting in the cylinder itself, no threading, no undercutting, nothing like that. I will say though, it's a very nice lock, super shiny. I do enjoy it. Okay, so now we have it opened and disassembled. We are going to reassemble it. All right, we had a little technical difficulty while I was repinning here. I had dropped some stuff, so I decided to just make it another cut since we already had the lock open and everything. So here we go. Let's try again. First, what we're going to do is just load in all of our springs here. I usually just work from the back to the front. I'll access the back 3 from the rear of the lock, and then I'll turn it around to do the front 3. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, we got those springs in. Now we're going to do the front 3. You might want to make sure you have the right size tweezers. These are a bit too big, so these springs are kind of slipping out a little bit, but we'll make it work. Okay, all of our springs are in. Now what I'll usually do is put in the plug follower here. This part's a little tricky because this is a pretty deep lock. You can't always see all the way back very well. But just try your best. What I'll do is put in the plug follower, take your driver pin, and rest it on top of that chamber, the 6th chamber in this case. And then you kind of just push it down with your tweezer and then push the the plug follower right over it. And so now we have that 6th pin in, and we're just going to repeat that process with all the rest. So like I said, it's kind of hard to see. I'll show you in a minute. This plug follower has a little channel in it, which I kind of use to maneuver the pin around and get it to where it's supposed to be. It's easier than fumbling around with your tweezers in most cases. Okay. 3. Oh, we're shaking a little bit. Okay, 2. And with the plug follower, this is what I mean. If you see there's like a little channel in the middle, and as long as you like stand up your pin, I'm gonna get it off to the side. So it's not in the hole right now, but you can kind of use the channel to guide it until it falls into its spot like that. And then you can use your tweezers to push it in. And there you go. Now that is in. Now all we have to do is put back in our key pins, and then we'll close up the lock. Okay. Luckily we were able to keep these in order throughout the process, which is always good, but I do recommend, no matter what, checking with the key to make sure your pins are correct before you put it in. Remember, with this lock, you have to put this brass disc in. And as you can see, everything sits flush with the key inserted. That's how you know you're good to go. And we are going to go ahead and we'll take that brass piece out for now. Make sure that your channel on your plug follower is now turned. If you leave it like this and insert this, all of those drivers are going to fall into that gap. Super important. Make sure it's on the flat side. And we'll push it right up to the edge here. We're going to take our plug. We're going to try to find the flattest part we can. We're going to try to avoid that little trap thing there. And you're going to push it all the way in. Don't even touch your plug follower. Actually, apply some force forward with your plug follower into the plug itself is probably your safest bet. and you're going to push it in. Being very careful that you don't allow that plug to turn, because since the key was not inserted here, which I didn't have it inserted because this brass bar doesn't like to stay in place when I use the plug follower. But if you don't have your key inserted, those pin chambers in the plug are going to have gaps, so that's somewhere for the drivers to fall into. So theoretically, if I had pushed this plug in while it was turned with the key pins facing up, I would have jammed it at that first chamber most likely, and then you'll have to go in and pick that single chamber and redo everything, and it's just a mess. So just use a lot of care when you're inserting the plug back in to make sure that the surface of the plug is flat, whether that's because you have the key inserted or because you turned it to an angle where you have a clear flat path for it to follow. And so those driver pins will stay on top of the plug and not fall into it. Okay, now that we have that inserted, we'll reassemble the rest of the lock. You got to remember that brass plate so that the key works properly. And then this just screws back on. There you go. It should work perfectly, just like it did before. Yep, no problems. And that is that. That was picking the Yardeni 6-pin Dimple lock, both clockwise and counterclockwise, and then the full gut and rebuild. I hope you guys did enjoy and find it informative. If you'd like to support the channel, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and thank you for watching. Have a great day.